Lifestyle Show. It's divine. It's your empowerment time.
It's Living a Healthy Lifestyle Show with your favorite holistic health coach, Carrie K.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Living a Healthy Lifestyle Show with your favorite holistic health coach, Carrie K. I have Corey King on today. He is going to talk about his leadership and being a real estate founder for the managing member of Right Turn Partners. He's an entrepreneur, a Navy veteran of 11 years experience. At 13-year-old, he witnessed his father losing his entire fortune in the 2008 stock market crash. This caused Corey to build a life centered on reclaiming back himself and ultimately helping others do the same. Corey began studying real estate investment and serving as a Navy corpsman in the Marine Infantry. He's the top producer in San Diego, lead one of the market's highest performing teams. Today, he leads the Right Turn Partners private real estate investment firm focused on capital preservation and stewardship. Welcome to the show, Corey.
Oh, thank you, Carrie.
Great. I wanted to read Ephesians 5:16. His work is now not just about building wealth or buying back time, but about aligning every investment decision and the seasons of life with God's greater purpose. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Heck of an intro.
Great. Well, so I see that you have shared witnessing your father lose everything in the 2008 crash. I know we've all gone through that. I went through some of that after my husband passed away. You started investing in real estate at 19 while serving in the military. How did your time in the Navy shape your mindset around discipline, stewardship, and leadership?
I'd say it's more around discipline, and I think we're built to do hard things, and God will shape our lives through doing things that are difficult, and we'll be able to kind of reap the rewards of that. So I had a very interesting military experience. I was kind of a somewhat of a black sheep in a way because everyone was wanting me to use my GI Bill. They thought I was crazy. So meanwhile, I'm buying my way into different real estate clubs in Southern California. I'm driving 2 hours each way I was going to Riverside, which is, if familiar with Southern California.
I lived there before.
Lived in Riverside?
I did, yeah.
Oh yeah. So the 91, that treacherous highway that goes lateral, the whole state of California seems to be driving on it every day. So I would drive from San Clemente for the first couple of years in the military, and then I would drive there after I got off work about 4:35, and then I'd go to class until 10 and get home at midnight. And I did that 3-4 nights a week, and on weekends and other days I'd be door knocking, foreclosures, because the club would teach us, how to, underwrite foreclosures and how to problem solve for people and underwrite deals and do creative finance and things like that. So, for the first couple of years, essentially, I just knock doors and I bring it to people that are smarter than me. And I did that for a couple of years. And the reason I say black sheep is just, I was doing all this entrepreneurial stuff. I was going to health conferences about, biohacking and, at 19 and listening to 4 hours of podcasts a day. And they're like, what are you? And I was a medic attached to Marine units. And it was an interesting blessing. Like looking back, it's so funny because my first couple of years was at a training command. And essentially, you have to they have to, when they're shooting their guns and they're training on ranges, they have to have a safety medic. So I was a medic attached to Marine units. And you basically sit there for 8-10 hours a day until someone gets hurt, which mostly they don't, of course, God willing. And so I would just sit there. I brought extra battery packs. I'd do courses on my phone. I'd read real estate blog, self-development books. Some of them that they caught me reading How to Win Friends and Influence People, one of the best business books of all time. And they're like, "Oh, Doc, you need some friends," and they just didn't understand what it meant to read that book. So, the military it's great. It gave me thicker skin, and it was able to kind of push through some things. When it's hard, it's hard. When it's easy, it's pretty lax in the military, to be honest. So.
My father was in the Navy, so I understand. What challenges have you faced as a believer in the business world? I know a lot of people face a lot of challenges, and you have those moments tested and strengthened in your convictions. So, as an industry driven by money, status, and performance, how do you stay grounded in all that?
Mm. Well, I think the first part of that question is like how I perceive it is, how do you think about your faith through hard times? And I think that there's been an interesting, when you're inside of a hard time, it's really that's when the faith is tested, right? So,
Amen.
and I, in full transparency, like as I told you, like I'm actually new in the faith as of about a year and a half ago. Because my whole life I had a very, let's call it spiritual, universal view of God and all this stuff, but it kind of felt, it started to feel very baseless. But I always had this belief that like whatever's happening is for me, it's shaping me, it's creating me into better. Because, it's like if you ask for strength, usually God gives you problems to get stronger. So, and there's, a lot of quotes relating to that. It's like, well, how do you create wisdom? Well, you got to go through things, and then you can give that gift of the wisdom and of the strength to pass on, once you've actually gone through it. So you don't have to list, you don't have to learn from your own mistakes. You can learn from other people's mistakes, which is great. It's the information age. But I think that with the viewpoint of like whatever's happening, if it's the harder, and this is the frame I even have now to date, and 2022 is very big test for me in this, that the harder the story that I'm going through, the greater the glory to God. So, and that is just, and now that is just ingrained in me. So like tomorrow, things are seemingly going very, very great, but if they weren't and it all wiped away, I would still have that. And I think that's what I really want my life to stand for.
Amen. I know that the hardships that we've all gone through, God makes us stronger through those things. So you help people with investments. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so essentially, just to get just a little rewind on the whole Ephesians 5:16,
Yeah.
what it means and how it relates to today. So when I was 13, when I watched my dad, he was Fortune 500 exec for like a big, franchise, Lowe's, and then he finally quit because he was like, I'm gonna die if I keep working 18 hours a day sometimes. And then he quit, and that was when I really like got to spend more time with him than ever, is in that 6 months. And then, he's investing in penny stocks. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. because I was the first kid to get picked up on a bus route. And he would teach me about the stock ticks as the stock market started going off, and banks and credit and all these things. And that kind of like sparked it planted a seed within me. But then I watched him just lose it all to this paper system. So, which I just don't believe. I invest in stocks very lightly, but I just don't believe in it versus real estate and physical assets. And that kind of birthed it. So instinctually, when I was 13, I just said, whatever I'm going to do in my life is going to buy back my time, because I didn't have any with my father. So, and I don't want that with my kids at all. So it turns out, and then when I'm 19, I said, I help people buy their time back through real estate. And that was my whole saying for 10 years. And then all of a sudden I'm in the faith, and I'm in the gym, and I'm listening to Byron Golden, and he's preaching. And he said, redeem the time because the days are evil. Like redeem the time, buy back, and the days are evil. Like, and life's inherently hard. To make it harder, we're all meant to be abundant under God's grace. So I it about brought me to my knees when I heard that. So today, really, it's like all about getting. We run an investment fund, Right Term Partners, and that's the management company. Right Term Capital is the fund, and essentially people get to invest alongside of us and my partners, who are institutional grade guys, like they've been doing it for 40 years, and they get to passively invest. And we basically, in the simplest way, I always like to tell people, people get to invest into little pieces of very large pies. And because they're investing into our larger projects and they have a little piece, it means more than if they took that little piece and maybe bought a single family house. Because we're building, 200,000 square feet self-storage facilities. And, when you have economies of scale, that's why, sadly, the big funds, BlackRocks and the Vanguard, that's why they're so big. They can just keep doing things that have these massive economies of scale, and they outpace us. So I just, help people buy their time back by passively investing in things that are going to actually get them to replace their salaries eventually.
Wow, that is so amazing. And that's great that you read that Bible verse and that you've been through all that to help you experience this. So what are you looking forward to in the future with what you're doing and helping others, creating their wealth? And I mean, the things that we're going through right now, how are we going to be able to go into the future with investing, with everything that's getting ready to change? I mean, they're also talking about the stock markets maybe going, awry or whatever. Like, what do you feel about that? How do you feel God's going to help us with that?
I think there is from a God perspective. So there's there's people I really trust and follow when it comes to economics, and and everyone should have, just to first start off, everyone should have their own thesis and invest on what they feel comfortable with. We just have our perception on the market, and we have our own data that backs it. And our narrative is real estate. Other people are great at stock trading, but I don't believe in it because it's like the statistics is, it's like 93% to 96% of people fail in the stock market over a 5-year period. So it's such a small percentage of people that actually win, unless they're just investing in index funds that is compounding and they don't touch it and they never pull it out in a down market. So I believe that the markets are changing, and there is a lot of different market forces for that. The stock market's propped up by basically fake debt, not to go too far into the economics of things. And that concerns me. Now, if a stock that's a well-known company cuts in half, I might still buy it because it's bound to bounce back. But would I buy it before putting it into real estate? Because the performance of our projects is greater, and I always want to put my money where my mouth is when it comes to investing inside of our investors. So I think that there is going to be, with the information era and the rise of alternative investments, is what I work on. So public markets is like everything you see on Robinhood, public, right? Private markets is what I do. So private real estate, and that's where the real money's made. And I think that the private markets is now being accessible more than ever to people like you and me. So like in 2013, that all changed with the Jobs Act, basically opened it up. Because stuff that I work on before 2013, essentially, unless you were a high net worth individual, you couldn't touch it. You could only buy it on the stock market once it went public and the real money was already made. So now I think that there's a huge change in the financial system where there's more accessibility. There is more risk because people they're no offense, but they don't know what they're doing, and they're putting out these securities in the private markets, and they just don't know how to handle a real estate deal. And that's why I partnered with the guy I did, right? So there's also more risk, but there is more accessibility.
Oh, wow. And how long have you been in the real estate
11,
market?
11 years. So,
Wow.
and that's in that sense, like did house flips and creative finance foreclosures, then did like buying and selling mortgages, and then ran a brokerage and through COVID, and did, that was where I really got it going, or running a team and there. And I started underwriting multifamily deals and sourcing land. I started to see how much the developers were making versus me just brokering it. And I was doing everything except signing on the loan sometimes. So so I was like, I got to get on the other side of this if I want to have impact, because all roads for me lead to philanthropy. So the faster that I help my clients accomplish their goals, because I don't make a dime until they get their money back, and then I get to go do the philanthropic things that I want to do. So
Wow. And so right now, because of the real estate market, how is that with buying houses and things? Because I'm looking in the market right now about maybe purchasing a house soon.
yeah, so I have pretty strong feelings about that, but it's part of my narrative. And I break this down to people all day long. They're gonna go buy a house, and I'm like, hey, listen, I've ran a brokerage and residential brokerage. I work with a bunch of residential houses, and why I left it is because so when the interest rates started to come back up in 2022, and everyone's freaking out, went to 5%, but what was happening is, someone's going to buy a house in San Diego for, 900,000, and the mortgage, don't quote me on these numbers right now, but like the ratio of the mortgage and the payment with that, what it would rent for was way off. I'm talking like $9,000 mortgage. I looked at what it would rent for on a good day, and it was like 4,500. So that means that if someone lost their job and or they got forced to move to another state, that they would be negative, like that $3,500 a month. And no one can handle a $3,500 payment on top of that, right? So
Right.
nobody, but it's very difficult. And that's what causes stress. So the fundamentals of buying a single family house are much different these days. And also and there's very few markets where that ratio is healthy. You have to put down an enormous down payment. And what kind of feels like the lie we've been told about the American dream is the ultra wealthy. Yes, they buy homes, big luxurious homes, but they don't look at them like investments really. Most a lot of like the high net worth, they will rent a high luxury home, because if they had to put that 600 or $1 million down on a house, they could take that million, they know they can go invest it in commercial real estate or private equity and make more money than all those ratios. So it's just, you got to watch what people do, not what they say. So
I'm just was wondering how the housing market is going to be in 2025, because there's just so many things that people are talking about where, it's going to crash and it's going to get lower and we're all going to be able to afford our houses. It's just
yeah,
there's a lot of rumors going around.
there is. And there's a couple trains of thought really to think about that, and really you just have to prepare yourself. There's certain, it all goes back to fundamentals. Like my partner always educates me, because he's done $4.5 billion of real estate and worked for the highest end companies in the US, Irvine, all this stuff. And like we just talk about fundamentals. So it's, if in the fundamental and that we follow, if I was going to go buy a single family house, unless I can break even on what the mortgage is and the rent is, I am not going to buy it. I'm not even going to look at it, because the fundamentals are off. And I'm betting, and people that I typically talk to about buying single family houses, they are betting that they're like, oh, it'll appreciate by 20% the next 2 years. I'll live in it and then I'll sell it, and I'll make this, big chunk of change. Well, you're betting on a COVID-like appreciation when the interest rate was the equivalency of zero historically. So it's just it's not going to happen again like that. But I'm not going to say that the housing market's going to crash, because there is different fundamentals that are showing that there's a simple supply and demand that's needed. And it's also it's all specific on submarkets, right? Like the Florida governor, I was watching something yesterday. He might get rid of property taxes. That would make Florida real estate so much more affordable.
Well, he needs to give that $813 million to all of us homeowners. So
Yeah,
why are
I'm
they
sure
waiting until fall?
I know. He seems like the type that'd be fighting it, and there's something beyond him to get that release. But I do agree it's a terrible situation what's going on at that part of Florida. Um, but yeah, I think that there's just buying a single family house can be you can't overgeneralize in a lot of ways, right? I say most markets and most time I don't see houses pencil very well. Okay, there's still parts in Texas. My friends do very well. I got friends that buy houses in Ohio, Section 8, and they do great, but they usually are buying it, fixing it up, and then keeping it. So they have a low cost basis in it. And that's the only way to get there. So I don't want to get too technical on that stuff. But
No, that's all right.
Yeah, so it's just, with the interest rates in 2020, when the interest rates were, I'll just end with this. When the interest rates were 2.5%, 3%, you could pretty much throw a dart at any piece of real estate in the US and not lose. But now with the interest rates at like 6.5%, you have to see what's going on in that neighborhood, in that state, what's driving people there. Because real estate takes people. If you're in a place where people are moving away, then you might be putting yourself in a harsh situation. There are certain parts of Florida, unbelievable amount of people are moving here. So there's a supply and demand. You want to really make sure that you're in a market has people moving into it.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Well, what programs are available before we end the show to help people to buy houses?
Well, as far as I'm not really in the residential world anymore, but yeah, I mean, people, like, you talk to your lender, obviously FHA and different kind of stuff like that. But yeah, that's more on like the residential lender, and if anyone needs a good connection with somebody wherever they are, I'm happy to see if I can help with that.
Well, great, Corey. Well, shout out your information. I appreciate you being on the show today and giving us all this information on, real estate and investment and things that we need to know about, and also too what the Lord wants us to do when it comes to that. So shout out your information, and we will end the show.
Okay, yeah. And people can look at our website, rightturnpartners.com. Follow me on social media, Corey King official on Instagram and Facebook, and then and LinkedIn as well. But other than that, thank you for always being the light when I see you at the business networking event. And yeah, just keep praying that everything that is turning out in God's plan over this next couple of years, both individually and collectively here in the US and everything in the world.
Yep, God is in control. So,
Mhm.
well, thank you so much, Corey. We appreciated all of our viewers that will see this, and look him up and see if you need his services at all. God bless. Take care. See you next time on Living a Healthy Lifestyle Show.